Welcome again to another episode of Strictly Healthy. I'm glad you could join us today. And we're talking business health. We have Sarah Nystrom, who is a body language and micro expressions expert. She's joining us again. She came before and talked a little bit about her business and her projects going forward. And today we're looking at finding out some examples, some specifics about expression, micro expressions, as well as body language, how it impacts on our life and how it impacts on our business. So we want to welcome you again to the studio. Sarah, thank you for joining us again.
Thank you so much, Linda. I'm really happy to be back with you here again. So we can keep talking about what we did last time, because we had so much, right? We didn't quite finish.
There was so much. So I thought I'd have you back because I think this is important, because it really does impact on our business, our personal life, etc. A lot of it has to do with sales and how, how we can accomplish getting business done. And even understanding from the other side, what do certain expressions mean, when they say or do things. So we're going to get right into it, because we don't want to run out of time again like last time. So I think last time you talked about the 5 C's, didn't you? Can you maybe go over them again, please?
Yes, the 5 C's are how to interpret body language, because many people think that you read a book on body language, and there's nothing wrong with reading a book on body language. I've read plenty of them, but please don't ever think that you see a position and that means what you read in that book, because it's so much more complex than that. You have to interpret in the right way. And there are the 5 C's that help us with that. First C stands for context. Always think about the context. If somebody has the arm crossed, I think I took that example last time, it could mean a no. It could mean that the person is closed, right? That's probably what you read in the book. But it could also mean the person is cold, right? Just to take another context. Maybe you're waiting for the bus, for what the jacket in the office, maybe it's winter and you're cold, right? Or you just have the habit of standing like this. If you have a habit of standing like this, that's another C actually. When we look for change, when a change happens, that's more meaningful. Then we can, when it happens during a negotiation, all of a sudden they pay attention. But if a person has the habit of sitting like with the arm crossed, don't overinterpret it. So that is C. I think I did 2 C's, context and change. Then a third C is calibrate. Always calibrate who you have in front of you. Do some chit-chatting before you start the negotiations. We usually do that anyway. That's good for building relations. As you do that, also pay attention to the usual body language that person has. Maybe also micro expressions or how can I say conversational things, because we all have different habits with our faces and our bodies. Now, micro expressions is something different, and we will dig into that in a while. But any expression in the face, for example, some people do like this a lot. That is not a micro expressions. Micro expressions are very brief. They're half a second or shorter. But when people do things in their faces, when they have a habit of doing things, we can pay attention as we calibrate. What habits does this person have? And then another C is, the 4th C is comfortable. The more comfortable somebody is in a certain position, the more probability it is that it means something.
So what would it mean if they're more? That's your dog going again. That's all right.
I'll need to let him out. One moment, please.
Okay. Yeah, no worries. Right. When Sarah goes and she lets her dog out, she'll be back a second. I'll just mute you then. Okay. All right. I'll have you back now.
Yes. Sorry for that. So the 5th C we talked about was being comfortable. The 4th C, the comfortable. The more comfortable you are, if you're very relaxed in a certain position, then that means that has a bigger probability that it means something. I'm terrible.
It's a busy time for you. Yeah. She's a busy lady. but I'm glad she could grace us with her time today and help us understand about micro expressions. And she mentioned about 4 so far. She talked about the context, the situation that you're in. She mentioned about change. If there's a change, then you know that something is different and going on. She mentioned about calibrate, or I think she'll explain that a little bit more. Uncomfortable, how comfortable the person is. So
are you more? I'm sorry for that. In Sweden today is a red day, it's a holiday. So I had the family that just came home. Sorry for that.
No
and we
worries.
do have the working from home situation, right? These days.
We all have it. We all have it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the last C that I wanted to mention is combinations, because it's never 100%. We can never say that it's 100% means this, right? There is a probability. And if you can see something in the face and also in the body language, the probability is higher. So look out for combinations signaling the same thing.
So give me an example of what you mean by that, though, if you can.
Yes. If you see a negative, I will, Linda. If you see a negative signal in the body, for example, crossed arms, in combination with disgust in the face, micro expression for disgust is little wrinkles coming around the nose. And you notice that at the same time as you see somebody maybe moving backwards with crossed arms, there is a clear negative. Your offer, or whatever you're talking about, is putting off that person. Definitely. So the probability just rose because you can see it in the face and you can see it in the body. Whereas if you only see it in one of them, for example, only in the body, micro expression is always the truth, actually. But if you only see it in the body, you may not, you cannot be as sure, as certain as if it would be a combination of the two, right?
So you're saying it's more in the face that we got to be concerned about and look at and consider. Is that what you're telling us?
Exactly. This is what I wanted. This is what I wanted to focus on, micro expressions today, because the truth is always in the face, and there is a very good reason for that. I'm not sure I mentioned it last time, but it's because of how the brain is constructed. I think we went into that slightly last time. So the brain is constructed in a way that we have, very simplifying, we have 3 parts of the brain. We have I think you remember we talked about the emotional brain and the reptile brain, which are the oldest parts of the brain, and they're very, very quick. This is the part of the brain that when you see a stick that looks like a snake, you jump to the side, right? Just without thinking. But if you go investigate it and you would think, you may get bit and you may get killed, right? So this is why we have this mechanism, that quick part of the brain, right?
Survival, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And then we have the more logical, rational part of the brain as well. But that's what we do, compare pros and cons, and we do the rational thinking, right? So micro expressions are controlled by the emotional and the reptile parts of the brain, and they are quick, right? So you can never control your micro expressions. They are just there. The moment you feel an emotion, they are there. There is no chance for you to stop it. Actually, micro expressions come the same time as you have the emotion, or slightly before. If it comes afterwards, then it's not congruent. Something is fishy. Somebody's trying to fake it.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So that's why it's powerful. So once you've learned, because people all the time, we send out the micro expression signals subconsciously all the time. We're not aware of it, and we also pick them up subconsciously. But what I do, I train people to become conscious about them. So when you can see the things and you understand them, you interpret them, and you can use them, you can adapt, especially in business and negotiations and sales, you can adapt what you're saying.
But if I may just interject here a second, just to ask, if you're focused on what the expressions on the person and so on, can you still pay attention to, maybe what they're saying, or can, keep up with the meeting or the conversation and things like that?
Yes.
Can you still
that
do
happens
that?
In the beginning when you train, when you practice. But like with everything, like when you learn riding a bike, you get better and better. And at the end, you stop. Actually, you even stop. It becomes like a sixth sense. It becomes like an intuition. Of course, I sometimes realize things when I talk to people and I am aware of it. But mostly it becomes like automatic almost when you're trained a lot, right? So it's just practicing and practicing. Then we have different techniques that if you hear the words and you miss what's going on in the face, we have different techniques that you can actually rewind the tape and see what happened in the face once more, because you may have seen something happen, but you want to see it again. Then we have a special technique that we call Q4 technique, and I think I mentioned that before. So there are so many tricks that you can use. And one thing, if you choose between listening to the words and seeing the face, go for the face, because the words, they can lie. The face can never lie.
The face can never lie. All right. Good. So I think you were also going to tell us what the 7 micro expressions are.
Yes, I will tell you. First of all, I think it would be good to have a definition of what microexpressions are.
Yeah,
so microexpressions, if the listener hasn't heard it before. So microexpressions or microfacial expressions, that I sometimes say to clarify it, is involuntary muscle movements in the face that take place for half a second or shorter and reveal hidden emotions. So little things going on in the face for a fraction of a second that reveal the truth about how people think in that moment, what their emotions are at that moment. And there are 7, they have conducted research on this for over 50 years, so it's nothing new. And already in 1872, Charles Darwin had theories about emotions being universal. So he was a little bit before his time. So there are 7... Sorry?
It's true that emotions are universal, because somebody could be speaking a different language, but just from their body language, their facial expressions, we can get a gist of what's going on and how intense the conversation is.
Exactly. And I get that question sometimes. I will soon dive into the 7 microexpressions that there are according to research, because I only talk about what the research has shown. So, but when we talk about different cultures, I often get that question: is it really the same all over the world? And yes, it is.
Yes.
The only difference is that in some cultures, for example, like Japan, the culture is not allowing to show emotions as much. This means that many people often try to hide their true emotions, typically with a smile.
Why would they be hiding that?
Well, that is a culture. That is a culture.
Okay.
I wouldn't be able to explain.
Any particular reason for that? Is it political? Is it?
I wouldn't go into that. That is not my area of expertise. I think that would be more like an anthropologist or sociologist talking about different cultures, right? But what I can say is that we have this exact same expressions, and I show videos of this in my trainings. We can see the same section as expressions, but it's, for example, if you take Japan, comparing it with Philippines is like a Latino, different kind of culture where emotions are usually shown openly, right? So if, for example, I show a video where a Latino person and a Japanese person feel disgust, for example. Disgust, we go back, little wrinkles around the nose. Both of them show them, where the Filipino shows it very openly, the same movement. In the Japanese person, you can see the same, but it's quickly covered up by a smile. Quickly covered up by a smile. If you're not trained, you tend to see a smile and you think we're good. But you missed the disgust that was right before. So it could be very, very tricky, but both of them have shown disgust. So the 7 microexpressions, apart from disgust, we have disgust or dislike, if you may. That's the same group. We have contempt. That means that you think that you're a little bit better than another person, or knows a little bit better than the other person. I think we all go there sometimes. And that is shown by one lip corner going up. One lip corner quickly, half a second or shorter. If it's longer than that, it's not the microexpressions. Also, very often you can see it's followed by a smile, and then it's even in all countries, because we don't want to show sometimes our true emotions, all of us. So I wouldn't buy a secondhand car from someone who shows this microexpression, who shows contempt, because it may be that that person knows something, it's hiding something about the car. Right? I would go for someone that has a real smile. That would be better.
Now, how do you know what's a real smile?
Oh, that's a different thing. Very good question,
a
Linda.
A toothy thing, or?
Yeah, no, actually, and that is not micro-expression. That is a macro-expression because it goes on for longer than half a second. So in micro-expressions, a smile or happiness is two lip corners going up, right? That's the third micro-expressions. But if it goes on for longer, and if you talk about the real, like, happiness smile, authentic smile, you can see it through the wrinkle around the eyes, because our muscles in the face are connected to the brain. And so when the muscles around the eyes get activated, we call it the Duchenne smile, actually. And that means that there is a true happiness or authentic happiness or pleasure going on. Whereas if you smile without the eyes, it's just like the polite smile, right? Not necessarily the person feels it for real. So far we said contempt, and we said disgust, and we said happiness, right?
Yeah.
Then we have anger.
Smile and happiness the same?
Yeah.
Okay.
Smile or green light in negotiations, right?
Okay. It's like a green light. Okay.
Like a green light. Not necessarily like happiness, but that is a positive sign showing that you agree, right?
Okay. All right. So we've got 3.
And then we say 4, we can say anger. And bear in mind, there are 7 expressions, but each one of them have different versions. Anger, for example, can be shown in 6 different ways in micro-expressions, both with eyes and with mouth. So with eyes, anger is shown by squinting the eyes, like the first subtle one is just a little bit. You have to practice a lot to see that, actually. And then the more intense the emotion gets, you also get involved the inner parts of the eyebrows going down, right? Yeah. And then you can also, with the mouth, show anger. So there are different kinds of versions.
I think the mouth tightens, doesn't it?
Exactly. Lips pressed together. That's actually, yes. That's actually an anger that we are trying to control anger. That's what we say. Controlled feeling. Like we get angry, but we try to stop ourselves because we know we're not allowed to be angry in this situation, and so we try to stop it. Like that. That is also anger. But it could be sadness also. We have a very sadness also press lip together is controlled sadness. But then you have to look at the eyes. If the gaze goes down like this, and you have pressed lips, that's sadness. So sadness, that will be our next one. Is that number 4 we're at now? Sadness.
Sadness, I'm separating that from anger. So I'm saying
of course. That's number 5. But I went on to that because you can show sadness and it's very close to anger. And if we look at the mouth, but sadness in the eyes would be like this. I'm sorry, like you go up. We go actually up with your eyebrows a little bit. And also you can see the wrinkles, like let me see, you do the inner parts of the eyebrows. I'm sorry, like this. It's hard to show here, but so both anger and sadness can be seen both actually with the eyes, but also with the mouth. And then we also, of course, have combinations of them.
I think with a stare, that tends to show anger, and then like you said, sadness is when they look down for a half a second.
That is one of the versions. One of the versions is looking down with no energy. That is one way of showing sadness. Sadness can be shown in 5 ways. So one of them is looking down, one is pressed lips, and then we have various things with the inner corner of the eyebrow going down. And then we have, in anger, if we go back again to anger, what you're referring to, Linda, is what we call the killing eyes. Like you don't want to meet somebody in a dark alley at night with the killing eyes, like that is I'm going to kill you, the open wide eyes, right? That's definitely the stare, the angry stare.
Dagger eyes, don't they? Dagger eyes. You can almost feel like the knife.
And then we How many did we do? We went
I
5
think
now.
that was 5 we got.
So surprise, we have still surprise, and we have fear. So let's start with surprise. Surprise and fear are actually very close. What you do, you open, the eyebrows go up, and the eye widen, the eyes open, right?
Yeah.
But in fear is the strongest emotion that where we use most muscles. It's the most stressing emotion for us to show, and the whole face is kind of tense when we get very afraid. So you see the rising eyebrows, and you see the open eyes, and then you may also see the mouth opening, right?
Yes.
You maybe with or without mouth. Surprise as well. Surprise, you also have the same motion, the same, but the eye, it doesn't involve as much stress. So the same, in the beginning when you train, you often confuse the two of them. So the eyes open, the eyebrows go up, but not as tense, right?
Okay. Now okay, that was fair. So I got 7 here.
Yeah.
All right.
7.
But one you didn't mention is love.
That is not a microexpression. According to research, it's not. So I only do the 7 microexpressions that research has conducted during the 50 years of research has conducted. So love, I believe love can be under many of those, right? We can feel happy when we're in love. We can feel sad, and we can feel angry. So I think love provokes a lot of emotions, but there is no microexpression that shows love. No.
Really?
Sorry if I disappoint you, Linda, but no, there is not such a thing. We can talk about body language.
The eyes dilate and all, or whatever they say happens.
That is actually NLP. The movement of the eye, or what you're talking about, the how is that called? The black part in English, not the iris. The iris is the colored one, right?
The dark one in the middle.
Yeah, the hole. I don't know now the word for it in English, but I know what you're talking about, and that is NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, that they talk about. They actually talk about the movement of the eye. Sorry, that is NLP, because sometimes people talk about the movement of the eye when you look up, left, and right. Yeah. Have you heard that before? That's not what you talked about, but I often get that question. That's not what I teach, and I refer to it as NLP, and I find it very interesting, but it's not under my umbrella. But also, there have been studies conducted, and I do believe that Pat and Kasia Wazowski, which are the founders of Center for Body Language, which are my partners, I do believe now that they did some studies on their own on that, and they didn't find as heavy proof for it. I know that there are different studies that have shown this, so I leave that to the side, and we focus on microexpression. So I'm sorry, Linda, you wanted to talk about that, but I'm not able to say yes or no to that, actually. But I have plenty of things to talk about when it comes to dating, and if you can see that somebody's interested.
Right. So if we could talk about that, then that'd be great.
Yeah,
to find out
that is.
Information. Although I don't need it. I'm married, so I don't need it. Not at the moment.
Yeah, but maybe the listeners. So when you go on a date, remember that our bodies talk all the time, and it's pretty easy to see. If you actually, you can go and you can practice when you go to a restaurant post-corona, or I don't know, maybe in some countries you can go when there are few people in the restaurant. I think some countries have opened up, right? So when you see people sitting in front of each other, and they do the same body language positions, they do the same movements, we call it mirroring. Yes, mirroring indicates that there is a good relation, there is a connection between the two persons. And this, of course, happens totally subconsciously. The people doing it are not aware of it, unless they have studied it, and they are, because you can actually use this consciously in negotiations, in dating, to actually consciously building a great relation. And you can see if the person follows you, if the other follows you, know that you're onto something. So you can experiment with that. First thing I would advise you to go and study others and see if you see couples in love, or you can actually see if there is a good relation. You can see it in the whole body. And it's funny, because if one person changes position, after a while the other one will follow. And this happens totally subconsciously, because we want to be alike. We want to be same when we have a good relation. So it's very, very interesting that this happens without us even knowing it. So that's the first thing. You can, during a date, you can look for mirroring. If the person follows you, then definitely he or she is interested. And then we have the whole posture. If the person is leaning forward, right? Excited, interested, eager even, that is a very good sign. Eye contact, obviously, eye contact, and smiling. Those are very obvious ones, and that's why I also have to mention them, because they are like the highways to building relations. Another one is showing the wrists. Showing the wrists means that you are open, right?
So if you're sort of like that, is that what you mean, or what?
No, not all the time, but when you talk and you expose your wrist when you talk.
Yeah, it shows you're open.
Right?
Yeah.
And besides, also using gestures when you speak shows that you are engaged. Yeah. If somebody's leaned back like most of the day, like this, not leaning forward, I wouldn't say that's a good sign. Not having much eye contact, maybe even leaning, supporting the head, very negative body language. But whereas you sit like this, you support your hand, not leaning with your weight in your hand, but you just like this supporting. That shows interest. Okay. Also, leaning your head, tilting your head like this, exposing your jugular vein, that shows that you're vulnerable and actually interested. Or also, or could be that you're interested. It depends on the context, right? If you're like this in a meeting with your boss, it doesn't mean that you're in love with your boss, but it could be that you're interested and you're also empathetic.
But doesn't it show a little bit like men and women in the different ways that they do it? Like women tend to sort of lean their heads a little bit.
Could be.
And they show a little bit of subjection or a little bit of inferiority, I think, by doing it. I could be wrong. I don't know these things.
I haven't seen studies on it, but it could very well be so that we more often do that. I don't oppose to it, but I haven't also seen studies on it. I do it myself very much, even before I started working with body language. When I did, I realized that I do it all the time in meetings. But it's a good thing because it shows that you're good at building relations. You are empathetic, and you are. I mean, it's good if you do it naturally. It's good, I would say. In general, and there are always exceptions, of course, when we maybe need to be more in a power position. But it's a good thing in general. And then other things like men, for example, that would like to flirt, they could maybe put the hands in the pocket and have the thumbs left out of the pocket. That could be flirty in a certain context. Women, particularly playing with their hair. Yes. It could be that they're shy, but it could also mean that they are flirting. Could be. Depends on the context. I don't say that it's always like this, but it could be a sign, right? And also holding the jacket, like you grab your jacket and you hold it like this, it's also actually a sign for openness. Like one thing, like holding the jacket is not very often you do that, maybe, but holding it like this, right? Not very often you do that. But one thing that I also think about, like a last thing I want to bring up, always look at the direction of the body and the feet, particularly the feet. The feet speak a lot. So if they're directed towards the person we're talking to, the person are interested in paying attention to that. But if they're directed in another direction, not facing you, then we have our mind and our thoughts elsewhere. We're not necessarily into that person that we have in front of us. So that is very revealing, actually, I would say.
And does this also translate into, say, a business meeting as well?
Of course. Yeah. We don't have to talk about it in romantic terms. Also, of course, in when it comes to business, I mean, you can definitely see all these things. You can see it in a business context too. If they're interested, are they interested not in you necessarily, but in what you offer, right? Yeah. The person leans forward, smiling, eye contact, body directed towards you, maybe perhaps leaning or tilting the head. All these positive body language signals, wonderful. But whereas you see the other signals, moving away, maybe pounding your fingers on the table or leaning your head, I mean, all these things, or putting your things, preparing to leave the table, you're grabbing your thing before the meeting is over. All these, people do these things, right? These are little signals that you need to take seriously and maybe change what you offer. And when it comes to, I would like us, Linda, to move into, if we leave the dating context and now we go into business, and I want to talk a little bit about business and micro expressions and explain a situation where you can use micro expressions. So let's say that you are in a sales meeting and you have said maybe that the consultancy fee for this project is £100,000. I'm just making it up now. £100,000 for this project. And then, especially the first 4 seconds, you pay attention closely to the face of the person to see the reactions, especially the first 4 seconds after you've said that. And now, if we see disgust, that means, and disgust, for example, it is usually wrinkles, little wrinkles around the nose.
Yes.
That's not a good signal.
No.
We want to keep the customer on board, right? So then we quickly amend our offer. So we can say like, because we are excited to work with you and we are interested in long-term collaboration, we are willing to offer you a 25% discount. You say it in a heartbeat. This is quick. It's nothing that you can write the day after, because it's there and then. The person experienced that emotion and you need to follow up on that. And that's how micro expressions actually bring people closer together. It's not about manipulating, it's understanding other people better, right? So our trainings actually increase the emotional intelligence. We've shown that. I think I told you that last time. So we do studies on what we measure. We did a study where we measured ability to read micro expressions and emotional intelligence. We did a training, and afterwards, you haven't only increased highly your ability to read micro expressions, you have also increased your emotional intelligence. Right? Sorry for that. So this is a way of seeing other people's emotions and understanding their needs and adapting to that in business. So you will get better business relations. And what will happen is that you will have better negotiation skills and close more deals, right? And the customer will feel seen and will feel understood. Now, if we go back to that situation again, and we instead you say that I charge £100,000, and you see maybe happiness, or you may see contempt, one lip corner going up. That could mean that they are surprised it's so low. It's a much lower price. They expected a higher price. Maybe they think it's too cheap, or they think that you don't have enough premium offer. So then you could say that 100,000 is for our basic package. But in your situation, I would recommend that you do A, B, C, and you get the premium package for £150,000, right? So, and also in a heartbeat. Right.
So you have to have that sort of ready and prepared to be able to say that, and to be ready to sort of chop and change in those situations.
And it sounds more complicated now, but when you've gone through the training, you can increase your ability very, very quickly, and you'll become very good at this. And if it's with very important meetings with high level of lot of money at stake, then I would recommend 2 persons at the meeting, one doing the talking and one doing the observations, and then
so would that person would they jump in then if you said
no? I think that these meetings about that money, these are not short. They're usually long meetings, right? So you convene and you take breaks and you convene, and then, I mean, what I said now was maybe like a shorter kind of meeting. But if you have a big meeting that's going on for like half a day, or I don't know, with a lot of people involved, these meetings I would recommend maybe one person doing the talking and one could observe.
Yeah, and then you take a break and you discuss what was observed, and then come back with some sort of a redress about whatever it is.
Definitely.
Okay. That's making sense. And now, how do we recognize lies?
Oh yes, how that's so exciting, isn't it? So there are no, I mean, I wish I could tell you that there are these signs, they always mean that the person is lying. There is no such signs. There could be many, there could be like some micro expressions, there could be I'm saying could, I don't say that it's always like that. Could be shaky hands, overly swallowing a lot, maybe changes of voice. There are different signs that could potentially mean the person is lying, but is not proof. No, sometimes people say that, oh, touch the nose, it means that you're lying. No, it could mean that you're lying. When you're lying,
And I think when somebody swallows a lot, they could be nervous as well.
Yes, exactly. So we have to have the whole picture. And there are different ways of testing the person if the person is lying. One thing would be to, because what that person is doing when they're lying, you're pushing the feelings away, right? And that is very stressful. First of all, our body goes into stress when we're lying. That's why we may do the swallowing, we may blush, we may start shaking, because the body is very stressed, right? So what you want to do then you can, for example, ask questions and use the same vocabulary as that person. You can also change topic, and you can see if the person actually got relieved. That is quite easy to see if the person gets relieved. If the person gets relieved, it's definitely a sign that the person could have been lying, right?
Okay. What about blinking? Somebody blinks a lot, or
Yeah, could be nervous, and nervous could be that the person is lying, right? And one other thing is, instead of asking questions, make assumptions and then watch the face. Watch the face as the person is making assumptions. If the person is touching the nose, as I said before, or the mouth, it could be that the person is lying. But I never say it's always that it's a definite sign. Because
so
when we get nervous,
sign that
no, there is no sure sign. But what happens when we lie, we get nervous, the blood flow increases because the heart rate increases. And that could mean that it's itching. Actually, the reason we touch the nose or may touch the nose is because it starts itching. Could be. But an interesting thing is that people that lie often try to hide between fake emotions. For example, smiling. It's been shown actually that smugglers smile more often than others. Because smugglers like smuggling diamonds or narcotics or whatever they smuggle, they actually smile. They also lie. They smile more often. So I find that very interesting, because they try to hide the fact that they are lying in one sense, right?
But what I've noticed, though, that say people under stress sometimes, or like, maybe they're being arrested, or they, something like that. They sometimes they smile, if they in a situation where they're
they do.
doing wrong.
It's trying to hide it. Also, if you accuse somebody, it's actually very common that you try to mask. It doesn't have to be smile. It could also be anger. Like, think about the politician that's lying. Often tries to hide behind anger.
Yeah.
Often tries to hide, and that happens. We see that quite frequently. When they feel accused, they show anger, like to show something, right? Another thing to do with person that you suspect lying, pressure that person a bit, put some pressure on it, see what happens on him or her, see what happens. And also, what you could do is actually explain. You know what? This is not for all situations, but it could be. I've done a training on micro expressions, and I notice this and this in your face when I talk about that. And I'm thinking that maybe you're not telling me the truth. That's an extremely direct way, and it's not suitable for all situations. But in some situations, it could be. For example, maybe if you see a boss talking to an employee or something like that, that could be a situation possibly where this could be used, like directly facing, and see what that person then says. Maybe he or she will admit something. So no. I mean, many little signs, but no definite sign that shows that somebody's lying. So we have to dig in there to see what we can find.
Okay. All right. Well, the time is gone again.
Yes, I
Thank you.
know.
Yeah,
I
thank you
know.
for that information. I know you have a few projects going on. So maybe after, you can comment about some of your projects and so on.
Yes,
Um,
I actually want to invite, and because I do every now and then, and now it's been some time. On the 5th of June, I will give a free webinar or micro 90 minutes webinar or masterclass in micro expressions.
okay.
So that will be at 4 o'clock UK time, 5 o'clock Standard European Summer Time on
Okay.
Saturday, I think it's Saturday, 5th of June.
At 4 o'clock.
So
Okay.
yes, and you
Maybe
just
you can comment in the Facebook
I will
as well
definitely, or you can sign
as
up
on
for
the
that
YouTube.
just by
Yeah.
sending him an email, and you can sign up for that. And I
Okay.
will walk you
That's great.
through more about microexpressions if you find that interesting. And so that's what
Definitely.
I'm doing now, that's something I wanted to mention to if the listeners are interested in joining. I would love having you there. And other than that, Linda, I keep working on the World Women Organization that I told you about.
Yes.
That I'm a co-founder of a global women's empowerment organization called World
Yes.
Women Organization. And we have, since we talked last time, we have started to recruit envoys in 195 countries, and we have welcomed our first 20 envoys. And we're very excited about that. Our website is also soon to be launched.
Oh, good.
So we want to be one voice for women in the world.
Good.
Um,
So
yeah.
I'll have you back when you get closer to that and you have
Yes.
your website launched and all
I
that
would
sort of thing.
love that
I'll
so
have
much to
you
talk
back
about that. And then,
so
of
we can talk
course,
more about
the last, sorry, Belinda, the last thing to say is Confident Communication Queen, which also kind of goes hand in hand with World Women Organization, which is all about strengthening women. You know, as an expert in communication, I have noticed that women particularly, everybody needs to work on their communication skills, but women particularly need to work on their inner strength to become
it.
powerful in communication. So
Because
that's what
we
confident
tend to
communication
suppress
means.
things, don't we?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it all goes back to lack in self-love, self-esteem, and self-confidence. And once we start working with that and becoming powerful on the inside, we
Hmm.
too, we can become more impactful. And the world needs female leaders now on all levels, be it at the grassroots level or at a global level.
Sure, indeed. Yeah. Well, thanks so much again, Sarah. I
Thank
really,
you,
really
Linda.
appreciate you sparing your time and helping me out today.
I'm
So
very happy to be here.
I did have a question for you. Do you, if you know, because I'm into wellness and so on and health and so on. So, if you know anyone who's struggling with their health or have any chronic problems, also let me know. There is a great webinar going on this evening, 8:30. It's on every day, every weekday this month. So if you can join on and know anybody else that I will share that information with you and in the
Thank
chat.
you so much. Thank you for sharing that with me, Linda. And I will definitely post that and I will
Okay,
share it with my network.
that
Lovely.
would
And
be
what
great. And
you're doing a very important job. So, of
yeah.
course, you have all my support in that.
Okay, you're welcome. All right. Thank you very much, Sarah. And
Thank
we'll
you.
have you back again another time to discuss your other projects.
I'm looking
Thank
forward to it, Linda. Until then,
Okay.
take care and all my
You too.
love to all of you from Sweden.
Bye for now.
Bye.
That was Sarah Nystrom, and she's a body language and micro expressions expert. So we'll have her back again another time to talk more about her expertise and her projects that she's involved in. But again, as I mentioned, if you know anyone struggling with their health or has a chronic problem, there's a great webinar on this evening. It's 8:30 GMT, and I will post a flyer. But it has really helped me a lot. It's made my health go, up as opposed to going down, which it was a few years ago. So it really is something worth coming and joining on to. So I will post that as well. So thank you for joining us, and we shall catch up with you next time. Same time, same space. Bye for now.